The Crown Jewels, a collection of royal regalia representing the might of the monarchy, its authority, its tradition, its jewels gold shiny. So how about we steal the Crown Jewels in a daring heist? You son of a wench, I'm in. It's 1618 and in a prosperous and good family in the Kingdom of Ireland, a son is born. This is the birth of Thomas Blood. With a name like that, obviously he's going to grow up to be a bold and brash soldier, and he's got bags of Irish charm. So he pops off to England to fight in the First English Civil War on the side of King Charles I, until he realises that Charles isn't going to win. So he swaps sides and fights for Cromwell instead. And Cromwell does win. He chops off Charles I's head and he rewards Thomas with a bunch of land. And Thomas rewards himself with a promotion to become Colonel Blood. Unfortunately for Colonel Blood, Charles II wins back control of the kingdom and takes away all of CB's lands. Colonel Blood is ruined and he flees to Ireland, and there he comes up with a cunning plan to seize Dublin Castle and take the governor hostage. The target, the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland and the Duke of Ormond, James Fitz-Thomas Butler. Lord Ormond is a loyal royalist and Colonel Blood hates him. But this daring heist is foiled, and Colonel Blood flees to Holland to escape arrest. A wanted man, CB later sneaks back into England in disguise and works as a doctor in Romford Market. And Colonel Blood decides it's time for a new, cunning plan. Except it's the same plan, so he gathers his gang and attempts to kidnap Lord Ormond. The Blood gang jumps Lord Ormond's retinue, drags him from his coach and whisks him away on horseback towards Tyburn, where they intend to hang him. But one of Lord Ormond's servants is like, "No fucking way." And after an exciting horse chase, Lord Ormond is freed and Colonel Blood narrowly escapes arrest again. Luckily for CB, the plot was so secretive that he isn't suspected in the slightest. Lord Ormond's son, Thomas Butler, even accuses the Duke of Buckingham of the crime and threatens to shoot him dead, all in front of the king. So Colonel Blood comes up with another plan, a different one. This time, he's going to steal the Crown Jewels. The Crown Jewels reside in the Tower of London, guarded by the 77-year-old Talbot Edwards. He lives with his family in the Martin Tower, and the targeted treasures are banked in the basement. If you slip Talbot a little coin, he'll even let you hold the Crown Jewels. Colonel Blood disguises himself as a parson and visits the jewels with his wife. She's really an actress and a pretty good one, because when she pretends to be ill, Talbot takes her upstairs where his wife looks after her, and Colonel Blood has found a way in. The next day, he returns to bring a gift of thanks for Talbot's wife, 4 pairs of white gloves, and he just happens to notice that the Talbots have a daughter and suggests that his wealthy nephew would make a good marriage prospect for her. CB is getting deeper undercover. Colonel Blood returns with his son posing as his nephew and 2 other accomplices. And what Talbot doesn't know is that this gang are tooled up to the teeth with guns, hammers and swords and canes. And CB is like, "Hey Talbot, let's let the kids get to know each other and you can show us the Crown Jewels." So Talbot's like, "Sure," but when they're in the basement, the gang violently jump Talbot, knocking him unconscious and tying him up. One of the gang shoves the royal orb down his kecks and Colonel Blood takes a hammer and smashes the crown flat so he can conceal it in his cloak. The royal scepter won't fit in the bag, so they start sawing it in half, when suddenly Talbot comes round and screams, "Murder! Treason! The crown is stolen!" His daughter hears and the alarm is raised. So the gang burst out of the tower and flee towards the getaway horses. They start to shoot their way out towards the Iron Gate. The guards surround them and the gang try to make out like it's not them doing the robbery but someone else entirely, except the squashed crown drops out of CB's cloak. Although he fiercely resists, Colonel Blood and his son are captured and locked up in the tower, and it's not looking good for them. But Colonel Blood has a cunning plan. He refuses to answer any questions and demands an audience with King Charles, and he gets it. And when Colonel Blood meets King Charles, he says something that ends up with him not only being pardoned and freed, but given land in Ireland worth £500 per year. Charles promises the Talbot family a £300 reward, but kind of forgets to ever pay them, and Colonel Blood becomes a regular guest in the royal court. So what did he say to get off the hook? Did the king fear an uprising from Blood's followers? Rumour had it the king loved a scoundrel, and CB turned up the Irish charm to 11, particularly with a flattering revelation that one time Colonel Blood meant to kill the king whilst he was bathing in the Thames. But CB found himself so in awe of the king's majesty that he couldn't bring himself to do it. Or was it because the king was in on the whole thing, being very short of money at the time, making this heist an inside job? So here's another weird story for you. Colonel Blood dies in 1680, and it's said that his body was later exhumed because he was such a tricky boy that it was suspected that he'd faked his own death to avoid paying a large debt. A debt that he owed for making very insulting remarks about the Duke of Buckingham's character, who promptly sued him. I shall now read Blood's less than flattering epitaph. Here lies the man who boldly hath run through more villainies than England ever knew, and ne'er to any friend he had was true. Here let him then by all unpitied lie, and let's rejoice his time was come to die.